The global health pandemic has been caught up in politics in this country, which could be the reason the rate of deaths and infections are out of control. Donald Trump has been promising a vaccine would be ready by the election, hence, there was a demand to push through any promising vaccine and ignore tough guidelines. The Food and Drug Administration finally won on this issue, and the agency's stricter vaccine guidelines will be adhered to. The FDA told the vaccine developers on Tuesday it will be enforcing strict standards before an emergency authorization. These guidelines were submitted a few weeks ago to the White House Budget Office and have sat there, holding up the process. It's clear that because of these stricter guidelines, there will not be a vaccine ready by Election Day, which Donald Trump has been promising supporters. He's been campaigning on it. Vaccine developers now must monitor half of the clinical trial participants for at least 2 months after the final dose of the vaccine or placebo is given before emergency authorization can be given. Developers were also told to wait to apply until at least 5 severe cases among those receiving the placebo have been reported. The White House was blocking the release of these standards for a few weeks. Trump's allies told him that the pharmaceutical industry objected to the FDA's guidelines. By refusing to allow the FDA to release the guidelines, it was believed it would affect the public's trust in the vaccine being safe and effective. The public must have full faith in the scientific process and the rigor of FDA's regulatory oversight if we are to end the pandemic, said the Biotech Industries Trade Association in a letter to Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar. The FDA sent the guidelines to be approved more than 2 weeks ago, but they remain sitting on the desk of White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. The point of contention lies in a guideline that said trial participants needed to be followed for a median of 2 months after the final dose. But that period would put the vaccination's release after Election Day, and Trump has promised it would be ready by then. On Tuesday it was confirmed that the White House Budget Office approved the release of the guidelines. 60 top doctors and public health researchers were included in a letter on Tuesday that said the FDA should take an even tougher stance. The group told FDA Commissioner Stephen Hahn that the agency should require a minimum of 2 months of monitoring and not a median. Premature authorization would prolong the pandemic with disastrous consequences, the group wrote. Several companies had said they would not be seeking authorization before the election. However, Pfizer CEO Albert Bourla had said his company could have a vaccine ready for approval this month. The FDA said on Tuesday that it expects vaccine developers receiving an emergency use authorization to continue to collect data for as long as feasible and work toward getting full approval. They should also ensure that ongoing trials have access to long-term safety and efficacy, said the agency. While the FDA has an October 22 meeting scheduled of an advisory committee on coronavirus vaccines, they are not expected to be reviewing vaccines. They will be discussing the legalities for authorizing a vaccine and guidance on approvals released last June.